I want you to put on some underwear!
Super Smash Shows! Welcome to Super Smash Shows. The rules are simple. I pick 3 shows connected by a theme, I watch the first episode of each show, and then cruelly force them to fight each other in a battle royal. There can be only one winner, the show I would be most likely to continue watching. This time we'll be making the first episode of these 3 shows fight each other. Black Bullet, Black Blood Brothers, and Darker Than Black. The connection between these 3 shows is that they all have black in their title, but also, I have all 3 of them as physical home media, which is pretty neat. No having to watch them on awkward subscription services, suspicious websites, or with really old baked-in fan subs. Super Smash Shows is a pretty good excuse for me to raid the shelves, and let's face it, I wasn't going to get around to these shows otherwise. So without further ado,
get ready for the next battle.
Black Bullet. Show number 1 is Black Bullet, produced by Studio Kinema Citrus and Orange, and directed by Masayuki Kojima, licensed in Australia by Hanabi, North America by Sentai Filmworks, and in the United Kingdom by Animats Entertainment. Yada yada, support the official release. The soul will never die. The copyright strike we had in January has disappeared into thin air, into smoke. It didn't once kill Super Smash Shows. Super Smash Shows carried on. This time I actually have all 3 shows we're going to talk about. This is rare for us. Black Bullet, Black Blood Brothers, Darker Than Black. Okay, can you work out the theme? Have you worked out the theme? That's right. They are all animated series. So, without further ado, I've got my strongbow. I'm sitting back. Let's start with Black Bullet. The episode begins with a child walking in the snow. People around him are bruised and broken. The year 2021. Yikes, that's this year. My god. It's the year. Jets fly overhead, and the sky lights up with fire and explosions. Do you hear that outside? Nightmarish creatures appear from the clouds, targeting the people below. The child is knocked down to the ground by the crowd of people, and left to die in front of the terrifying creature. Opening theme. And it's a good one at that. The song is Black Bullet by Fripside. Oh, fake Latin too. Okay. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's a good theme. 10 years later, the boy is now a young man, Rentaro Saitomi, a member of the Tendo civilian security, and he's here to investigate an incident involving Gastrea. Could those be the creatures from before? Rentaro should be here with his initiator, but she fell off his bike and he just kept on pedaling. I love this guy already. Rentaro busts into the crime scene to discover a mysterious masked man inside, who claims to have murdered the infected who are here. I have many questions so far. A fight breaks out between the two, and during the kerfuffle, 3 officers are killed. Rentaro manages to land a hit on the masked man, but he flees the scene. What? Anyway, looks like the person who was attacked here had managed to leave the scene earlier, and is now walking around the streets infected. Meanwhile, his initiator, Enju Haibara, runs into the infected-turned-infector, which transforms into a monster before her eyes. A fight breaks out between the two, which Rentaro manages to break up with the use of his black bullets. Rentaro and Enju run off because they're late for a limited-time sale, leaving the cops to clean up after them. Rentaro gets a telling off from his boss at Tendo Civsec, Kisara Tendo.
What's worse? You didn't even bother to call and tell me that the sale was going on!
then drops in to visit his doctor, Sumire, to ask about the infector who got away. We get some exposition about who and what the Gastraea are, and what makes them terrifying. At home, Rentaro cooks up a feast of bean sprouts for himself and Enju. We're introduced to Enju needing a shot. It's time for your Zombrex, Katie. The whole scene is one I can only describe as sketchy, and then Rentaro takes Enju to school. We learn about the cursed children, girls who are born from infected pregnant women. This show got very creepy in a weirdly sexual way in the last 5 minutes. While it didn't set my world on fire, Black Bullet's first episode sets the tone for what's to follow. If it spends more time on the interesting fights and monster designs, and slightly less time on Enju trying to lead Rentaro straight down the road to hell, this could honestly be a good show. But is it winner material? I think it's far too early to say. Am I just looking for connections between this show and our current worldwide pandemic? Pattern! No fucking way! Interesting, there was a lot of story, a lot of it dumped on us, but there was some very nice action and fighting sequences. I can say that Black Bullet was certainly an interesting first episode. Black Blood Brothers. Show number 2, Black Blood Brothers, is an animated adaptation of the light novel series of the same name. It was directed by Hiroaki Yoshikawa and produced by Group TAC and Studio Live. This series is licensed in North America by Funimation. Yada yada, support the official release. Must say I have a soft spot for Bishonen. He's a vampire too. Black Blood Brothers starts with its opening song Ashita no Kyoku by Naozumi Takahashi. Reminds me of a cross of the Japanese X-Men cartoon theme Rising and TM Revolution's Web of Night. It's a banger anyway. This is like knockoff TM Revolution. After the opening, we see a dimly lit room at sunset. A TV set blathers on about vampires taking over. A man sits in his chair and drinks from a can of Coca-Cola. He grins, showing a single fang. Oh, could he be the leader? A battle against the Dark Ones rages on. This is amazing! Vampires with guns. Vampires with guns. Vampires with guns. At their absolute limit and unable to contain them, our lead Jiro, with permission of the Lord Dragon, sets off to eradicate the invaders. Alright, it's time for knockoff Alucard to shine. Jiro lost someone very dear to him, and it seems when he's slicing up enemies, it helps take his mind off the pain. Most of us normal folk use alcohol instead. Using his silver blade, he makes short work of the plague of vampires in the streets. Jiro ends up in a battle with another woman from his past, a vampire lady named Kassa who had betrayed him and the person he loved. Jiro is incapacitated, and Kassa flees. Wow! But also what? Some time has passed. A container ship sails across the ocean, and upon it, stowaways, all vampires. A creepy girl wanders the ship, feeding indiscriminately. We meet an annoying vampire boy named Kotaro, and his brother Jiro, from the intro, who just wants some goddamn sleep. There is also a group of vampires on board led by some sort of resistance leader. Kotaro meets the girl vampire, and while chasing after her, ends up amidst the gunfire between the Special Forces and the Resistance. The noise has irritated the sleeping Jiro, and his coffin shoots up through the deck in frustration. He leaves his coffin and speaks politely to the people making all the noise, but not before chastising his brother Kotaro and beating 10 levels of shit out of him, which is just honestly hilarious. I could watch Kotaro getting the shit beaten out of him all day.
Your brother was firm when he told you to be good and stay asleep until we arrive. That's hardly the point.
We get some explanation on the approved special zone where vampires may live, the Company, that maintains the special zone, but takes pleasure in killing vampires behind the scenes. And we learn about the shaky peace that this so-called special zone has managed to achieve. Unable to prove his affiliation to the special zone, Jiro is opened fire upon by the special forces. He quickly disarms them by flinging their bullets back into their guns, rendering them useless. Chaos ensues, and Kotaro ends up being flung from the boat, forcing Jiro to jump into the ocean after him. The group of vampires on board escape on a boat, headed for the special zone. Jiro, unable to handle the pain caused by the water on his vampiric skin, passes out in the ocean. Black Blood Brothers raises some interesting questions. Why did Jiro go through such a change in his character from his rugged appearance in the opening? What happened in his past, and how exactly is this casa connected? I have many questions that I hope the show will properly address across its 12-episode run. It's hard to put into words exactly what feeling I get from Black Blood Brothers. It's the oldest of the 3 shows featured on this episode of Super Smash Bros, and its story is the most straightforward in many ways. Will this give it the edge needed to win? We'll find out soon enough. I don't want to let on yet. I want it to remain a mystery. Next up, we have Darker Than Black. Darker Than Black. From Studio Bones, show number 3 is Darker Than Black, with music by Yoko Kanno, and directed by the show's author, Tensai Okamura. Yeah, Darker Than Black has a lot to live up to. It was licensed in Australia by Madman Entertainment, North America by Funimation, and in the United Kingdom by Manga Entertainment. Yada yada, support the official release. Darker Than Black starts with a beautiful night sky. A girl watches the stars. It immediately cuts to a harsh city skyline, where a man flees law enforcement by jumping between buildings. He appears to have some manner of supernatural powers, floating away from the scene. He's a contractor. A French man named Louis, and his special power is gravity nullification. This is happening all too fast, and I have many questions. All 3 of these shows have contained superpower humans of some kind. Once he has given them the slip, Louis then proceeds to break his fingers in the most excessively agonizing, drawn-out sequence, where you get to hear every snap and crack. Ow. Dude, why would you do that? Apparently this is the price of his contract. Looks like the special abilities one gains comes at a cost. When Louis uses his, he has to snap his fingers. A masked man approaches this Louis fella and gets the upper hand in the scuffle that follows. He pins down Louis and grills him for information, and when he doesn't get the answer he wants, he doesn't feel at all bad about roughing the fella up. Some exposition, something came 10 years ago. Nobody knows what it is, what it does, or what it wants. But these contractors, people with special powers, are most certainly related. We get our opening song, and it appears I know this one. What? Wait, I know this! Taika no Tatsujin! I've played it! Yep, it's Howling by Abingdon Boys School. And that's 3 for 3 on excellent theme songs this week. We might as well rank these at the end of the episode as well for farts and laughs. We get some history on Louis. Real name unknown. He was found dead by the police. Affiliated with the French Directorate General for External Security, whatever that is, the French government is denying involvement, and the agent's COD is unknown. Apparently a contractor with the code BK201 was active at that time, but nobody knows who has that number. Apparently it's not in use. That must be the guy with the mask from before, right? BK201, the Reaper. Lispy tells us that someone made off with the Pandora core, whatever the hell that is, and some classified information. Looks like this is one of those shows where they make a reference to 100 things we don't know about just to mess with us, but once we've seen it we go, oh wow, they foreshadowed episode 14! So anyway, these folks are looking for a Chiaki Shineda, believed to be related to the case somehow. It's explained to us that contractors are kept a secret from the general public, and if this Chiaki lady knows anything about what's going on, then she's a threat to national security. I find it hard to believe that it's been kept a tight-lipped secret for 10 years in the age of smartphones and the internet, but whatever. Suspend your disbelief, right? We are introduced to our main character, the Chinese exchange student Li Senshun. Presumably he's this BK201 or Reaper fellow as well. He's moving into a small apartment and briefly meets a Miss Haraguchi, who leaves without saying a word. Lee wastes no time in checking his apartment for bugs, not the nibbling kind, but the surveillance kind. His apartment turns up empty, but it tells us he's no spring chicken. This isn't his first rodeo. There's more to this mild-mannered exchange student than it first appears. It's evening at a local hostess club. Two coppers from before are undercover at the club, sweet-talking a hostess named Ayame. When their time runs out, the hostess speaks to her boss and the cops get jumped. Yep, that hostess is the Chiaki they're chasing, and after briefly flashing their badge, they make chase. Chiaki bumps into Lee while attempting to escape, and his quick thinking helps her hide, by making like Sean Devlin from The Saboteur and using a kiss to help her blend in.
But
You know, you do this in The Saboteur to hide from police in that game. Chiaki runs off, but Lee certainly recognizes her. Looks like he's been searching for this Chiaki, in relation to the thing he wanted from Louis. Maybe that thing is the Pandora Core? You remember my name? I gotta get out of here. You'll never see me again! Chiaki is jumped by an associate of hers, Jean. When asked about Louis, Jean dodges the question and then attempts to kidnap Chiaki. Again, Lee shows up to help Chiaki get away, but ends up flung onto the train tracks before a train passes by. Can we get an F for Lee Senshun? He only came to Japan to study. Chiaki learns of Louis' death and discovers that Jean is a contractor. She manages to escape captivity and once again runs into Lee, who is apparently completely unscathed. The two embrace in the rain, and the episode comes to a close. I wanted to see you again. I survived being punted by a train. Darker Than Black creates an interesting world, where 10 years ago an unknown entity appeared which granted people supernatural abilities. This provides us with a great mystery, and I'm aware that Darker Than Black has a follow-up series, a prequel OVA series, and at least one more OVA, so there's plenty of opportunity to explore this world and its rich lore. Does this mystery make Darker Than Black the winner? Well, it's not so clear to tell. I can't make anything out. It's darker than black in here. Okay, these were three very interesting shows, but normally I sort of have a rough idea how I feel. I have no idea after these three. So what I'm going to do, give it 12 to 18 hours, start the write-up, see how much of these I can even remember, and then work it out from there. It's very interesting. This could be anyone's game. All three of these were quite fascinating. This is going to be tricky, but for the completely opposite reason the last episode was tricky. Anybody's game. Anybody's game. Battle Royal. Which show would I be most likely to continue watching? Hopefully the answer is black and white. Super Smash Bros. Is here to find the answer. So let's shine a light on the darkness and see if we can determine a winner in this black void. The great thing about this selection is that there isn't a set scheme or method, narrative style or predictable format. We've done episodes on Pretty Cure, Kamen Rider and the Marvel anime shows before, and each of those we were met with shows that felt homogenous and samey. As usual, we can find things that are connected between these three shows, but they're each very different, and that makes picking a winner ever so slightly easier. I did deliberate a lot though, for like 2 weeks. Black Bullet feels very relatable. It starts off in current year, completely by chance, this was not a deliberate selection on my part, and discusses a literal pandemic that continued to spread a whole 10 years on. We can make direct connections to our current world. I wonder if in 2031 we'll be fighting giant monsters with genetically superpowered combat lollies. A man can dream, I suppose. Black Bullet has a lot of anime trappings though. High schooler, masked and seemingly invincible antagonist, the aforementioned lolly who spends most of her screen time trying to seduce the main character, special moves with names that are called out. I could go on and on. I think I might go as far as to say this comes across as very generic. Not that this is necessarily a problem, but when your show doesn't really do much to stand out in the first episode, that's a little concerning. The action really is great though, the animation in the two main fight scenes is fantastic, but they last for such a short time overall. Reminds me of the first episode of The Skull Man, if you ever saw the episode we did on Studio Bones shows. The titular Skullman himself was on screen for barely 2 minutes of the total runtime, and the action in this feels like it's over before it's even begun. A real shame, because when it's good, it's damn good. Little things like the background being in moving shots, and not just those action lines all the time, though the show does make use of them too. Honestly, the action is the best part of this, and the first episode doesn't give us anywhere near enough of it. Now, the writing in this is, well, all over the place. Not just the 10-year-old trying to get in the pants of our high school lead, which is well par the course for anime these days, but also the whole infected pregnant women give birth to Supergirl stuff seems kind of like, I don't know, like an edgy teenager wrote it. The civilian security is based in the red light district. The Doctor imagines herself in a relationship with every cadaver she's working on. It's just kind of icky. There's no direct clues as to where the story is going either. This could go anywhere. Heck, 6 episodes in, it could randomly turn into a harem anime. At which point I've already started and I might as well run it through. Hell, I actually quit High School of the Dead for that reason. I'm skeptical as to whether Black Bullet is going to go somewhere interesting or not. On a different Super Smash Bros. Episode, this might have had a better shot at being the winner, but it's up against 2 shows that appear to have more of an idea of what they actually are. If there's any show that comes across as having all its affairs in order, that would be Darker Than Black. Clearly from the get-go, it knows where it's going, but it also sort of expects us to know what it's up to, and it's not always so clear. Organisation and people names are thrown at us like we're supposed to be intimately familiar with what they are. I switched to the Japanese voice track and English subtitles out of curiosity and discovered that, yeah, the English version flowers up some of the lines to the point where they start to diverge a little from the intended meaning. It just serves to obfuscate things. The episode made a little more sense when I watched it again with subtitles, but I will admit only a little. I watched this episode a few times now actually, and I still have a lot of questions. I still barely understand what's going on, but the show's creators do. When it digs around these little nuggets, they're going to be revealed to be shiny gold ore, I just know it. Lee or Hay or the Reaper or Burger King 201 or whatever you want to call him, what a strange main character. He goes from kind guy to literally the eyes of a goddamn killer in less than a second. Clearly he's got his own demons, and I look forward to seeing them explored. Having people with superpowers though, that kind of leaves the floodgates open for anything. A dude that can nullify gravity, a dude that can phase through solid objects, what next? A dude who can't be killed? In fiction, invincible lead characters are boring. We want someone fallible. And so far, it appears Lee's only weakness is not being able to control his anger or his urges. Yow. Black Blood Brothers. Now this is funny. I got it wrong in my head and somehow thought this was related to Vampire Hunter D. I was waiting for a creepy talking hand to show up and demand tasty souls.
Ah, yummy. Feed me more.
But no, the two are not at all related, though you can forgive me for thinking so when the main character is a vampire with a sword and a large hat. Black Blood Brothers is the kind of show I might have been interested in back when it aired in 2006. Some of the historical old blood stuff would have confused the heck out of me, but seeing a badass vampire lad with a sword would have got my blood pumping. Even better that he's voiced by J. Michael Tatum, whose voices always get my motor going. It's a shame I don't really have a lot to say about this one. It's going to ramp up to be a fight between Jiro and some ultra vampire. His brother Kotaro will probably get kidnapped and Jiro will have to fight the baddies or whatever. I'm sure there's plenty of lore to explore and unpack in what happened some years back, but I'm not necessarily drawn to Black Blood Brothers enough to really care. It seems like a put it on in the background kind of show, maybe when you got some chores to do, and you can't stand the crushing loneliness and depression of remembering shitty events from the past because your brain thinks it's super cool to upset you for no reason. Gotta stick something on to stop the thoughts, am I right folks? Honestly, that's what Black Blood Brothers is to me, just chewing gum for the brain. Get what I'm putting down? I thought picking a winner would be easy, but finding a winning aspect with any of these 3 shows is really quite a challenge. But first, we had 3 excellent opening themes this time, but I've got to give the win to Darker Than Black. Abingdon Boys School is a fine band that continues to produce some amazing music. Howling is a fantastic song that deserves its rightful place on our Super Smash Shows playlist on Spotify. I'm going to keep plugging it, so you'd better get used to it. Anyway, after milling it around in my head, I think I'm ready to give my verdict. And the winner is... Black Bullet. Oh, that's thrown you, hasn't it? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. Okay, so this may be the cringiest of the episodes we watched together this time around, but it's also got some kind of weird hook. Not sure if it's the unbearable Rentaro and Enju relationship, the stupid sense of humor, or just wanting to see what batshit crazy, edgelordy thing this show is going to do next. Utterly stunned by this, honestly. You have all this talent in one place. Heck, you have Shiro Sagasu doing the soundtrack, the Evangelion and Bleach Shiro Sagasu, for fuck's sake. And the studio is clearly capable of producing top quality fight scenes. You get talent and then you use it to make this. It beggars belief. Black Bullet started as a series of light novels, which are basically short stories for teenagers, with the occasional page dedicated to some nice artwork here and there. You don't really see anime made from light novels unless they sell well or they have a good plot. So clearly there's something deep here that we don't see in the first episode. I hope. And that's what I'm holding out for. I just pray this doesn't end up another harem anime. I have a sixth sense for this stuff now. I have nothing against shows like that if they assume the position from the get-go, but when you weave a good plot and then drop it for an excessive bath episode, I have to draw the line. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Darker Than Black is definitely on my shortlist. It feels kind of unfair to put Black Bullet ahead, considering that Darker Than Black appears to have much more of a focus, but there's something Darker Than Black is missing in its first episode. Well, it's not missing, but there's not a lot of it. And that's comedy. Darker Than Black has its occasional gags, the old lady thinking that Lee Sen-shun is there to fix her television.
Don't stand in the door, you old fuck! You'll block the reception!
But Black Bullet gives me plenty more things to find amusing, as well as disgusting, confusing, and strangely sexual, but amusing. Comedy is sometimes what I'm after, and if you can make this miserable bastard laugh, you've achieved something. I picked all three of these shows up on a whim from CEX over the course of the past few years, and I don't regret purchasing any of them. It might be fun to return to these shows when I've watched all three in full, if I watch all three in full, and then evaluate my decision. Speaking of which, I now have all three shows featured in the Bones episode from way back when. I was thinking about watching all three and doing the very same thing, a follow-up to see if our winner, Gothic, really was the best choice. Let me know if you'd like to see that. I recently just finished watching Gothic, and I probably did pick the best show of the three featured in that episode. Lots of mysteries and lots of Victorique de Blois, but was it really the best choice? So what would you have crowned the winner? Black Bullet and its cursed children fighting the pandemic? Black Blood Brothers and its relatable lead Jiro who just wants some damn sleep? Or Darker Than Black and its mysterious tale of contract killers? Share your choice in the comments below. I came up with this episode's theme, but do you think you can suggest a better one? Drop that in the comments too, or share your suggestion on the Flagrant Weeaboo Discord. This has been ReelAsia. You've been watching Super Smash Shows, and I'll see you next time.